made sure when Cruiser was talking to be present because he knows how to present at a very high level. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys three things that I always make sure to do when I'm presenting. One, I let people know what it is, right? You got to know what it is. Me and my team, we always practice. I go, what do you do? And they'll have to be like in the hot seat, like, what do I do? Right? We all have to figure out what is it, right? Making multiple sources of income from your phone, being able to become financially free in whatever space that you're focused on, travel, social media. You got to know what is it. Everybody type in the chat, what is it? Sometimes we get so excited we're presenting, we don't even tell people what it is. They're like, what are we here for? We got to tell them what it is, right? What is it? Okay, number two, where is it going? Where is it going? Where is it going to take me to? As a good presenter, you got to let people know, right, where they are versus where you're going to take them. Where is this going? What is it? Where's it going? And last but not least, everybody's favorite thing to hear, write this down. What's in it for them? A presentation is a conversation, and what Matthew Cruiser is really, really good at doing, and you guys will see it, because during this presentation, he's going to tell you guys how to present. He's going to show you guys what's in it for you. What's in it for you if you learn to present? How is that going to help you? How is that going to strengthen you? How is that going to get you better? And that's why from the moment that he recruited me, right? Because this man recruited me, cold market, guys, from Instagram. I went platinum 5,000 in his business. Right? Why? Because he told me what it was, where it was going to take me, and what was in it for me. Right? Now, the beauty of presenting is every single one of you guys has your own unique story. Nobody's story is the same. If I hear like a robot story on a call, I'm like, oh no, this person does not know yet how to tell your story. You have to know your story. Okay? Have to know your story. If you don't know your story, you got to sit down and write it out. Okay, you have to solve the problem, and you have to, last but not least, last thing I'll give you, you have to ask questions. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. Right now, I only gave you about 3 minutes of my time, 4 minutes of my time. Did you learn something? Type in the chat. Did you learn something? Yes or no? Did you learn something? Yes, yes, yes. Was I entertaining or was I boring? Was I entertaining or was I boring? Somebody put yes. I'm hoping you meant yes to entertain. Right? I asked you guys to turn on your cameras. I asked you guys, how are you? Right? Something that I also want you guys to understand is my background isn't crazy. Right? I see some of you guys that got, everybody that has their cameras on, you look like you're looking like you're in a great spot to do a call. So you're perfect. Even I know my sis Aaliyah, she got the blur in the background. You don't know where she is. She could be anywhere, right? Got a nice background, right? We're smiling. Those of you guys that have your cameras on, congratulations, because let me tell you, those of you guys that have your cameras on, you're the most locked into the call. That's right, Zion. That's why you going chairman, boy. You got that camera on, right, Jazz? Jam. James, you got the camera on. You're showing people your energy from the start. We can't present. Imagine if I got on this call and I was like, all right, guys, who's ready for this? Y'all are like, that's a nice picture, but what's going on, lady? Turn on your camera. So those of you guys that can, if you're in a position, my mentor is about to speak. Drop some C25s for the man, the myth, the legend, the person that brought me into this opportunity, the person that continues to develop me even to this day, right? Mr. Matthew Cruiser, the floor is yours. Take it away.
What's good, fam? How's everybody doing? Guys, I want to give credit back really quick to Mandy. You heard a little bit about her story. She came in this industry with no experience. I met her on social media. We didn't have any type of connection before this. And I would say this, she came in and she just started shattering record after record after record, had a lot of success fast. I was a slow success story in this industry. She was a fast success story in this industry. And no doubt is she going to hit Chairman 10 very, very soon. So I appreciate you for opening up the call. And honestly, she's one of the best presenters that I know. So honestly, I would say that couldn't think of somebody better to open up a call to talk about presenting. For those of you guys who I have not met, like Mandy said, my name is Matthew Cruz. I've been involved with IM full time since 2018. I am a Chairman 10 within the Academy, and it has absolutely changed my life. And I don't think that there's anybody who is more qualified to teach you how to present, not because I'm the best presenter, but because I was the opposite. I was the most naturally introverted person probably on this entire call. So if I could go from not being able to communicate to one person, let alone speaking in front of I don't know, thousands and thousands and thousands of people, then I know for a fact, I don't care who you are or where you're from, that you can make this happen as well. And when it comes to presenting, you guys have to understand that this is very, 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 very important. And the reason why is because your upline isn't going to be here forever. Well, maybe they will, but you can't rely on them forever. You have to be the person that takes control of your own paycheck. You have to be the person that takes control of your own business. And you cannot do that unless you can present. And the very first lesson, before I share my slides with you guys, is when you are presenting anything, you always want to, Simon Sinek has a book, it's called Start With Why. And no one cares about the what or the how. People want to know why this is important. So the very first thing I'm sharing with you guys is why presenting is important before going in to how to present. But let's get into it. If y'all are ready, drop a 777 in the chat, and I'm excited to show you guys the details. Because guys, there's a method to the madness. Presenting can be very simple, but I promise you there's a lot of minor things that can make a major difference in your presenting. So we're going to talk about before the presentation, during the presentation, and after the presentation. So let's talk about it. Before the presentation, obviously there's different types of presentations, but you need to prepare for the presentation. Let's say that hypothetically we're talking about a home event. It could be a hotel event. There's a million different places that we could show the plan. However, if I am doing a home event for somebody in this setting, for whoever it is that's running the meeting, whoever the host is, the very first thing I do is I send them this exact home event checklist, because I need to prepare the person who's running the meeting. I can't just assume they know what to do, because they obviously don't, but people tend to do that. And so this is very basic stuff, but I'll just go over it with you just in case. So slides prepped on the TV and screen. Obviously, nothing's worse than me, who's supposed to be this, if you're edifying someone who's supposed to do the presentation for you and you're making them walk on water with your words, and then they come in and nothing's set up and then they have to set it up, it just doesn't look right, right? So slides prepared. You want music, very important, before the meeting and also after the meeting. You don't want any silences, really. No awkward silences, no kids, no animals. Basically don't want distractions. That's pretty self-explanatory. This is a business meeting. Snacks, water are fine. No alcohol. Alcohol does not go good 99% of the time at meetings. Not good. Don't think I need to explain that. Pretty straightforward. Never interrupt, walk around during the presentation. This drives me crazy. When someone is doing the presentation for you and people start either interrupting, which is worse, but not as bad, but still not good, is just walking around, because people don't know that you're not a guest. And when they see people walking around, they're assuming that people aren't interested. They're assuming that people aren't locked in, right? Never apologize for no-shows. This might seem straightforward, but you'd be surprised how often this happens, where maybe, by the way, guys, there's usually a 50% flake ratio. So if someone says, hey, I got 20 people coming to this home event for sure, that means they have 10, okay? And what tends to happen is people will say, they'll start apologizing for no-shows in front of the guests that they do have, and rather than appreciating the people that they do have, it just makes it super, super weird. So I always, send that as well. And last but not least, I give them an edification script so they know how to open up the meeting, which we're going to go more in depth later on. Now, also before the meeting, this is one of the biggest concepts that changed my presenting, because I was so focused on saying I was so focused on the words. I asked my mentor, I said, hey, Kiani, hey, John, hey, people who are showing me how to do this, what do I say? And what you say is only 7% of communication. And don't get me wrong, words are important, but 93% of communication is nonverbal, right? It's not necessarily what you're saying, it's how you're saying it, right? It's your tonality and it's your body language. So words are important. I do use specific words at specific times, and that is helpful, but over 90% is your tonality and your body language, right? So I always talk about the law of state transference. Whatever energy you have will be reciprocated to you when it comes to your tonality. Excitement, certainty, urgency, and exclusivity are the most important part. And then when it comes to your body language, when I first started presenting, I have videos of it. It's very embarrassing. First of all, I didn't move. I stood still. I didn't use my hands at all. They were just by my side. And it just looked extremely awkward. I had to learn how to walk around. I had to learn how to use my hands. And when you're using proper body language, you're basically, how could I say this? You're putting emphasis behind what you're saying. You're saying, I know this information so well that not only can I say this with my words, but I'm also emphasizing it with my body language as well. So 7% is words, 38% is tonality, which is really, you got to express excitement. If you're excited, they're going to be excited. Certainty. If people aren't joining your business, it's because of a lack of certainty. And if you raise your certainty, 9 times out of 10, people are going to what? Probably want to get started. Urgency. Why do they need to get started right now? And exclusivity. People want what they cannot have. And then body language for the reasons that we just explained. People often join the business based off of the energy in the room. They walk into the home event, they walk into the hotel event, they walk into the Airbnb event, and based off of the energy in the room, are there positive vibes? Are there negative vibes? Are there positive people? Are there negative people? Are there happy, uplifting people? Or are there not? And based off of the energy in the room, subconsciously, people are making a decision to not join or join very, very quickly. These are all things that happen before the presentation even takes place. And there are 5 crucial questions that you must answer as a presenter. Number 1, do I trust this person? Do you look like a trustworthy person? So when you're presenting, do you look extremely sharp? Do you look like an expert? Do you look like a professional? Do you act and talk that way as well? Does this information make sense? Are you making it to where, are you able to clearly express and explain the information? Is it simple? Those go hand in hand. If you can't explain this information to a kid, to someone in middle school, then you're doing this wrong. You have to be able to make it super simple. I see people all the time, they use crazy terminology, crazy language, and you confuse people and scare them away. Can I do this? This is why sharing your story is so important. What did I do at the beginning of this call? I talked about where I was and how bad I was, because I know that if I could do it, you could do it too. And I make people genuinely believe that they could do it too. Will I get support? Are you talking about the community? People want to be involved in something bigger than them. People want to be involved with high value people. And so people need to know that also you're going to be there for them. Are they going to get support? Are they going to get help? Or are they going to be in this alone? These are 5 questions that are running through people's head that you must answer throughout the presentation. Now, here are extra tips. Some of these are very basic, but if you were like me when I first got started, I needed to hear them. So I'm going to say them anyways. Number 1 is smiling. Very simple, very obvious. However, I used to look angry when I was giving presentations and I didn't even know it. And it's hard to see the picture when you're in the frame. So some people need this reminder. Eye contact, obviously very important. Me too versus so what? What does that mean? What that means is, are people saying so what when you're talking? Like the things that you're saying aren't important, or are people saying me too? Are you able to connect and relate with people? Temperature checks. Mandy said this earlier, but temperature checks are getting people engaged, making sure people are awake. Why do you think we have people drop things in the chat? Why do you think people say yes during the presentation? We get people super, super engaged to make sure that they're locked in. Don't stare at the slides. Goes with eye contact. Eliminate objections. This one's huge. There are about a handful of main objections that you're going to get over and over and over. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I got to think about it. Too good to be true. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is. And you need to be aware of these objections so that you can eliminate them throughout the presentation before they give them to you at the end of the presentation. People say, hey, Cruiser, how do you handle this objection? How do you handle that? I don't handle it because I don't get them, because I still do get them sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But I most of the time don't. Why? Because I'm eliminating them throughout the presentation. Let's talk about time. For example, if I know that one of the biggest objections is I don't have enough time, now I'm going to tell people how they could do this part-time. They could do this spare time. That if they could hop on, go live an hour a day, 2 hours a day, a few hours a day, that they have enough time to start learning and eventually earning, right? Eliminate objections. Use stories and analogies. If you watch the best, I'm talking about the best of the best presenters, all they're doing the entire time are telling stories and analogies. Stories and analogies are very, very relatable. Use names. What did Mandy do earlier? She was calling people out in the chat. Why? It keeps people engaged, gets people excited. The number one most important word to a single person is their own name. Emotion plus logic. People say that most people make decisions to join based off of emotion. And that's why your energy is everything. That's why your excitement, your certainty, your urgency, and your exclusivity is very, very important. However, you need to make this information so logical. You need to make it make so much sense that it's very easy to say yes and very difficult to say no with the logic that you're using. And you have to use both. And you have to be aware of both ends of these spectrums. And then jokes. Humor is amazing. If you are making people laugh throughout the entire presentation, it's very difficult to not want to do business with people that you really, really like. And so you'll hear me usually throughout the entire presentation give at least a handful of jokes, make people laugh, because I know that that is going to get them to like me a lot more. And if they like me, people obviously typically buy into you before buying into the business. Now, during the presentation, so all this is before. Let's talk about the actual presentation itself. Typically, there's going to be 3 people speaking. Let's say you have an opener, someone who's going to open up the meeting. You have the front half, people who's going to go over the services. And then you have the back half, someone who's going to go over the compensation plan. Let's talk about all of these. Before even talking about these 3, one of the most important things that you need to know is how to tell your story. We talked about the importance of stories. Well, guess what's the most important story is your own. And you need to get very, very good at telling your story. And if you're not sure how to do it, I would write it out. That's what I did when I was brand new, when I had no idea what to do. I literally wrote out my entire story in a way where I made it very interesting so I could practice telling my story, because this is all we really do, is we're just professional storytellers. That's what we're doing. So where is it that you were before the academy? And maybe what you didn't like about the situation. Maybe you didn't like a specific part about your job or whatever the case is. So where you were, where you are now, and then you found a solution and how IM has impacted you in a positive way. And then where it is that you're going. Maybe you could talk about your excitement for the future. Now, every single presentation, if you ever see me do the presentation, whether it be a one-on-one, whether it be a big event, it doesn't matter what it is, you're going to see me tell my story the same way almost every single time. Hey, here's where I was before the academy. Here's where I didn't like the situation, but I found a solution, and here's where I am now, and here's how it impacted me in a positive way, and here's where we're going. Right? I'm not going to go over my entire story right now because I do that all the time, but you get the point. Now, for the person who's opening up the room, let's just say that this is your home event. Well, then you're going to be the one opening up the room. The opener dictates the energy in the room. So you want to get everybody excited. What did I say earlier? The law of state transference, whatever energy you have will be reciprocated to you. So if you are very excited and you're the one opening up the event, that's going to set the tone for the rest of the event. So your job is very important. You want to make sure everyone feels welcome. Welcome everybody. Super excited to have you all here. And we have some really excited information to go over. And then you're going to go over house rules. Hey guys, I don't want to have any interruptions. So make sure really quick that we have your phones go on silent. We hold your questions to the end, whatever house rules that you might have. And then you want to preface the meeting. People need to know what it is that they're about to see. Maybe someone dragged them there to the event, right? And they're not 100% sure. You need to let them know what they're about to see before they see the event. So you could say stuff like, hey, we're going to be talking about digital education. We're going to be talking about social media, investing, day trading, some of the best ways to go out there and make money online. And most importantly, the #1 education platform in the world to teach you how to do it. And you preface the entire meeting and talk about what they're about to see. And then most importantly, the most important part of the person opening is edification. Edification is everything. It is the most important part of the person opening, because your guests have no idea who the next speaker is. And they're going to, the way that they perceive the information is going to be a direct reflection based off of what you say about the person speaking. So you, as the opener, want to make sure that you make the first speaker, the person who's doing the front half, you want to make sure that you make them walk on water with your words and talk so highly about them that everybody around them is going to have a lot more, they're going to have a lot more influence on everybody around them. So edification, you could say, hey guys, we are super, super lucky to have one of the top leaders, top earners, someone who's been able to do this, someone who's been able to do that. And you edify that person. Like, we have different trainings on edification, but just understand that this is the most important part. I see people do everything. They get everyone excited. They welcome everyone. They do the house rules, prep for the meeting, but they don't edify the person correctly. And that's 90% of the open, right? And then from there, the person who's opening, guys, it should really be a minute, 2 minutes, a few minutes, because you are really just basically getting everybody ready to see the entire event. And you don't want to be, up there for 5, 10, 20 minutes opening if that's all your job is at that specific moment. That's the main role of the person who's opening. So after you do that, then you're going to edify Bob, let's just say, and then Bob is going to do what? He's going to go over the front half of the presentation. He's going to go over the services and the academy itself. And it goes a little bit like this. First person who's doing the front half is going to first and foremost tell their story, right? Where they were, where they are, where they see this thing going. Once they tell their story, they're going to get into the cash flow quadrant. This is very important because obviously 95% of people are trading their time for money. And so the way that it works is because we're observing the masses and we're doing the opposite. We need to get people to understand that there's better ways to make money. People have been absolutely programmed, right? That you can only make money in a specific way. Therefore, one of the first and most important things that you could do is go over the cash flow quadrant, which opens up their mind to entrepreneurship, letting people know that the top 5% of people that control 95% of the world's wealth are either A, investing, or B, have a business. So we open up their mind to entrepreneurship. We open up their mind to the information. And then from there, talk a little bit about the academy, right? So one of the very first slides is a slide just going over the academy, right? And you could talk about how the company's been around for a decade, so we're here to stay. We could talk about how the company's done $1 billion in sales over the last decade. You could talk about how 1 million people have been trained throughout the academy. And what you're doing is you're just building massive credibility for the academy. And then from there, you got to go over the different income streams: Forex, crypto, TBX, stocks, travel, social media, e-commerce. I'm sorry if I forgot one of them. Hopefully I didn't. MMX, all of it, right? The different income streams. And you have to be able to clearly articulate what each one is. Nothing is worse than going into the academy talking about the education if they don't know what they're getting educated on. So you have to talk about what is Forex, what is crypto, and you have to break down what each thing is first before breaking down the actual services that you provide for that thing. And then from there, you talk about the services, right? So when I'm talking about social media, e-commerce, trading, I break it down into 3 steps. I say, hey, number 1, you have the academy basics. This is terminology. There's a lot of terminology for these different industries. And this gives you a straight line of information, breaking down the basics. So you can look at a chart and know exactly what you're looking at if we're talking about trading terms. And then step 1 is the academy. Step 2 is go live. And step 3 is the strategies. So step 2, go live. You have live education, right? In trading terms, I like to say, hey, live trading and training. And then from there, last but not least, number 3 is strategies. And then I break down some of the different strategies that's working best for us and our organization. And I make it so simple. 1, academy basics. 2, live sessions. 3, strategies. And then TLX is a little bit different. With TLX, I talk about the 6 key components of TLX, all the different components of TLX, and I break down each one of them individually. And that is how you go over the services. And then testimonies. Some people love testimonies. Some people don't use them. I love using testimonies. It just really depends on the setting. But if you're ever are called to give a testimony for the products specifically, then this is how you do it. First of all, it's a testimonial, not a trainomonial. What's a trainomonial? A trainomonial is when you go up there and you just talk for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes. That is not your role at that specific time. Your role at that specific time is to give a testimony on the product. It's literally 30 seconds, a minute. It's not supposed to be long at all. So it's just your name, what you do for work, how long you've been in the company, what product that you've been using, and the positive impact that you've got from the product. And that is it. It's very, very short. So testimonies, and then you get into the price. Now, I like to compare price because I like to compare the price of different things to make it seem very cheap, because it is. And I like to compare the price to, if I'm talking about trading, I'll say, hey, your average trading course is $2 to 10 grand. I thought this would be a few $1,000 decision, not a few $100 decision. If we're talking about TLX, I'll say, hey, it's crazy. The value of the free trip outweighs the cost of being a member alone. And I'll break down the different price points, and I'll make comparisons to make it seem very, very cheap, because it is very, very cheap. And then from there, I'll talk about the two, and it's free. And I'll say, hey, when Netflix first came out, they said, hey, if you refer 2 people to Netflix, then we'll waive your monthly subscription. You'll get it for free. Guess what? Our company does the same thing. And we have tens of thousands of people that have gotten all of this for free. And that is it for the person of the front half. And then what are they going to do? They're going to edify the next person and then bring up the back half speaker. So edification applies here as well. And so for the person who's doing the back half, what are they going to do? They're going to tell their story about, again, where they were, where they are, where they see this thing going. And then they're going to talk about why building the business makes sense. And so here's how I do it. I'll say, hey, the company allows you to partner up with them on a bigger level as an affiliate, so you can get paid to promote the platform. And I do specify that the 2 minutes free is only for customers, and that I still pay the monthly subscription myself. You have to make sure that's clear as well. Don't want any confusion there. And then I say, it makes sense. It's a win-win. I say it's a win for the company, because companies spend millions of dollars on radio, TV, billboard advertisement, but rather than doing that, they pay individuals like you and I. So it makes sense for the company, because word of mouth is the most powerful form of marketing, but it makes sense for me, because if I have something that's saving me money, educating me, or helping me create another source of income, of course, I'm going to share that out with other people anyways. And so I explain why it makes sense to share the platform with other people. And then very briefly, I break down the power of residual income. I talk about, hey, you have linear income, which is fine. You could do work. You trade your time for money or hours for dollars. You work, you get paid. But if you don't work, you don't get what? You don't get paid, which is fine. It's a great place to start, but it's not where I wanted to stay. I saw the power in residual income. I saw the power in being able to do work once and get paid over and over and over and over for that work that you do once. And most people have never heard of this concept before, so you have to explain that before going into the compensation plan. And then you can go into the compensation plan and break down some of the ranks. Talk about some of the key levels. Platinum 150, the first rank, Platinum 600, Platinum 1000, the first few ranks. And then from there, I'll talk about a few of the bigger ranks. Maybe we'll talk about, I would probably just, while you're going through the ranks, whoever your mentor is, you can talk about those people at those ranks and share real people's real stories. And then from there, sometimes you have rank testimonies as well. And it's a little bit different than a product testimony. Name, what you do for work, how long you've been in, rank. Most importantly is why you are doing it. People don't care about the what. People don't care as much about the how. Most importantly, people care why you are doing what you're doing. I'm doing this because I wanted to have more freedom, more financial freedom, more time freedom, more location freedom, whatever. But that is what really people buy into. And then after that, then really you're just going to close out the entire meeting. How do you close out the meeting? Here's how I do it. You don't have to do it like me, but this is how I like to do it. So I'll say this. I'll say, hey guys, our only goal tonight is to help everybody here make an educated decision. Because I often like to refer to the book, Think and Grow Rich. The chapter decision is arguably one of the most important chapters. Talks about how successful people make decisions quickly and change their minds seldomly, if and when they do at all, and they don't need validation from outside people, right? And then I say, hey, there's 3 types of people. I want people to put themselves in one of these 3 boxes. There's A, B, C. If A, you're super excited, amazing. If B, you have questions, that's okay. That's what we're here for. If C, it's not for you. There's not one opportunity for everybody. But for your average person, someone with not a lot of money, someone with not a lot of time, I really think that this is going to help more people than anything else. That's how I break down A, B, or C. And then here's what I say. I say, hey, there are 3 questions that my mentor asked me to help me make a decision. And then I say this, I'll say, hey, if not this, then what? Where else can I go within 2 to 4 years to set myself up for financial increase or for the super serious financial freedom, right? If not this, then what? If not you, then who? Who's going to take my financial future more seriously than myself? The answer is nobody. And then the third question is if not now, then when? And I often refer to Jim Rohn, who talks about the law of diminishing intent, which basically states that the longer that you wait to do something that you should do, the higher the probability that you're not going to do it at all. Later typically turns into never. So I get people to really understand that the best time to sign up was probably yesterday. The second best time to get started is probably today. And if you don't take the opportunity now, I'm creating urgency. If they don't take the opportunity now, then they're probably never going to do it at all, right? And then maybe I'll create some type of FOMO. Maybe there's a promotion going on. Maybe there's a big event going on. You want to promote that next event, but people are more scared to lose something oftentimes than they are to gain something, which you want to talk about both. You want to talk about what people can accomplish with you. And you also want to talk about what might happen if people don't get involved, right? And so that's that. And then from there, I'll just say, hey, get back to the person who invited you and let them know if A, you're excited, B, you have questions, C, if it's not for you. With that being said, have an amazing rest of your guys' night. Looking forward to meeting every single one of you guys. Boom. That is it. And then you just close out the meeting. I know I'm going fast. If this makes sense, drop a 777 in the chat. I want to see if y'all are with me. All right, cool. Perfect. We only got like 2 slides left. So after the presentation, after you're presenting, what do you want to do? You want to turn music on quickly. And the reason why is because number 1, you don't want awkward silences. Number 2, it's going to dictate the energy in the room. Number 3 is you always want to have just as many reps. You want to have a lot of guests at your meeting. Don't get me wrong. But in my opinion, you want to have just as many people who are in the business, if not more, so that people can have individual conversations with everybody. So we call it a SWAT team is what we call it. So basically, let's just say that there's 10 guests and 10 reps. So we have those 10 people who are in the business have individual conversations with the 10 people who are not in the business, because we don't want 1 or 2 negative people to necessarily, we don't want other people to hear those conversations, right? Or if they're super negative, we don't want that to affect everybody else. Out of a group of 10, by the way, let's say a third of people are positive, a third of people are in the middle, and a third are super negative. We want to sort, not sell, right? We want to sort. If they're super negative, amazing. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you for coming out. And you can just show them the door, right? If they aren't interested, that's perfectly fine. And then for the people who are the most excited, guess what you want to do? The people who are the most excited, the ones who are nodding their head the entire time, the ones who are saying yes when you're telling them to say yes, you talk to those people first. And what happens is they get started. And when they get started, everybody else in the room sees that they got started because you announce it to everybody. And now everyone in the room is getting FOMO because they're like, wow, other people are getting started. Maybe I should get started too. On top of that, you want to make sure that obviously everybody has their referral link. Nothing is more annoying than someone that has someone that's ready to join and they're not prepared. And also there's something called a closing sequence. I'm not going to go into that in depth, but I'll just tell you that personally, when I'm working with someone, I teach them 4 things. I teach them after you got to make sure that the people who are at the event know what to say to help those people get started. So for me, I tell people this. Ask people, hey, what was your favorite part? What'd you like best? You want to start the conversation on a positive note because people are naturally negative, right? What'd you like best? What was your favorite part? And then the second question is, did everything make sense? By the way, each time people say yes, the more likely they are to say yes again. And then from there, I'll say, awesome. Do you see an opportunity for yourself? Like, is this something that you could see yourself doing? And then if they say yes 3 times in a row, the chances of them saying yes, are you ready to get started, is about 80%, probably maybe even more. But those are the 4 questions. And I make sure that everybody knows this and has a referral link and is ready before the event. And then last but not least is 20% of people are going to get started on the spot. And if they do, amazing. 80% of people, it's going to be the second, third, fourth time you talk to them. It's going to be multiple exposures before they join. And there's an acronym called BAMFAM. It stands for book a meeting, from a meeting. So if they don't get started immediately, amazing. Then I'll set up the next meeting and the next exposure while I'm there with them. So I don't let them go home and then I call them later on and then I'm kind of chasing them. Every time I'm there with them, I'm booking that next meeting and I'm bam-famming from one meeting to the next, exposure to the next exposure until eventually they get started. And then the last thing I want to say for this slide is nothing is more annoying than when you have people who are in the business that are trying to ask you a million questions after the presentation is over, when you have new and excited guests that are ready to get started right now. There's a time and place for everything. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you and the entire team is super, super focused after the meeting. And this might seem like common sense, but I can't tell you how many times I do an event for somebody. I do the presentation and someone in the business after the event, when we should be having conversations with all the guests, comes up to me and is trying to ask me a million questions about trading. Yes, I want to help you with trading, but not right after the event when people's excitement is obviously at an all-time high. So be aware of that. Last but not least, I want to give you guys a call to action. I want to give you guys some things to do. None of this matters. None of the information matters unless you apply the information. So here's what I did to get very, very good at presenting. Number one is I listened to my favorite presenters on YouTube. So whoever it is that you really, really like, people like different styles, right? I basically had 3 or 4 people that I studied like crazy and I watched how they presented and I took everything that they said individually and I put it all together and made it my own. And that is how my presentation was formulated initially. And then practice, obviously nothing is going to replace practice and reps. And so that's pretty straightforward. And then the most important thing on this list is I would say set up a presentation for yourself this week. Ideally, maybe with a small group of people, maybe it's with a big group of people, maybe you're super, super scared and you're going to do a one-on-one. I don't care. What I do know is that I personally started presenting after 2 weeks of being in the business. And yes, in the beginning, should you be leveraging your mentors? Absolutely. And you could do that all the way up to the first few ranks. But let me tell you what, if you want to get from platinum 1000 to 2000 to 5 to you're going to need to learn how to present. And for me, literally after 2 weeks, I was like, okay, I've already seen this presentation 5 times from my mentor doing it for me. Let me learn how to do it myself, because if I want to get to where my mentor is, I need to be able to do what he or she is doing. So set up a presentation for yourself this week. If you can do it in a group, even better. If you want to do it individually, fine, I don't care. But you need to take control of your business and you should set up your own presentation. And then last but not least is you should record yourself. I record my presentations all the time. And the reason why I do it is because of what I said earlier. It's very difficult to see the picture when you're in the frame. So here's what's going to happen. When you record yourself for the first time, you're going to start to notice that you're doing things that you didn't even notice that you were doing. You're going to be like, wow, I didn't realize that my eye contact was so bad. Oh, wow, I didn't realize that I said ah, or like every other sentence. Oh, wow, I didn't realize, I thought in my head I was super, super excited, but now I realize that I'm very monotone. And it's very, very difficult to see the picture when you're in the frame. So you have to record yourself so you can look back. And what do people do in sports, right? I was watching a show before I went to bed last night. It was a football show. And what do? They watch game tape, right? They watch the film so they could see what they did right and what they did wrong. Same thing. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you guys need anything, let me know. I'm always here to help out. If you guys apply these things, I promise you, you will take your presentation from where you are to the next level, and you'll be able to close anybody who's closable. Obviously, not everybody is closable, but for the people who are, you're going to be able to get them started. Why? Because you're going to be an impact speaker, because you're going to apply this stuff immediately. So I appreciate you guys. Have an amazing rest of your guys' night. Love you guys. Talk to y'all soon. Bye, guys.